Thanks, Mike. All right, so in a previous life, I worked on the Philadelphia waterfront. And part of this job involved being around tugboats and barges. And probably very few people know anything about that. And it's really not that interesting, except there's a lot of interesting people down there. And like he was talking about Western Pennsylvania, it's a whole subculture. So anyway, I'm working down there, and you're always doing things in the middle of the night, which never made any sense because it's hard to see and things are big and heavy and they crash into each other and cause a lot of damage. But anyway, so to change the names and protect the innocent, there was this one captain, and I'm changing his name to Jim. And Jim knew absolutely everything there was to know about operating a tugboat except how to do it. And somehow he ended up to be a captain. And he was a big guy too. I mean, this guy could have been a bodybuilder. He's huge muscles, 6'4", he's a huge guy. And I'm this little runty dude. I'm like 50 pounds heavier now than when this happened. So I'm like this little runty dude. And there's another little runty dude who's a deckhand named Jerry. So we're getting ready to leave the dock and we're gonna go down the river out to the ocean. And we get this barge tied to the tug and we undo the lines from the dock and we're just going out of the thing. And Jim is yelling at us because we don't have a clue what we're doing and all this stuff is supposedly going wrong, and he's yelling and carrying on and cursing down at us. And then he gets on the public address system, which most tugboats have. So it's like this loud cop speaker. It sounds like the voice of God yelling at you, right? And you guys don't know. All of a sudden we hear this thump, 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 thump. Hear something. He picked up something off the bottom of the river and it got caught in the propeller. Well, this is a real pending disaster. And of course, Jerry and I knew exactly what's happening because we're down low. Jim is up in the wheelhouse, and we run up the companionway up to the wheelhouse and say, George, or rather Jim, now you know his real name. Anyway, say, Jim, you got to put the port engine in neutral. We got something in the wheel. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to blow it clear. So he gives it full throttle and, of course, wraps this piece, which we found out later what it was, doesn't matter, wraps his piece up in the wheel, stalls the engine, okay? So now we're drifting down the river, right? Luckily we have another engine, another propeller, duplicate of everything on this tugboat. But Jim decides he's going to blame Dan for this, right? And he is cursing me out and yelling again. You don't know what you're doing. You can't believe that you got this thing caught in the wheel. I'm thinking, dude, I was on deck. I don't know what you were doing up there, but we told you to stop. No. He gets on the radio, which is the equivalent of telling the entire world, because it's an open channel. And he's getting on the radio, he's telling the Coast Guard, he's got something stuck in the wheel, and it's this guy Dan's fault, and I'm going to call my office now. And I think, so I'm getting a little bit hot under the collar because I got nothing to do with this. And by the way, I was the guy who had contracted these guys. They were actually working for me. So, okay, I'm taking this, and Jerry can see that I'm getting a little excited. Jerry says, Dan, why don't you go down the galley, have a Coke, relax. It's, we're going to be okay. We got the other engine. We'll get back to the dock. Now, this tugboat had a big open stairway up to the wheelhouse, down to the galley. And now I hear Jim on the phone to his office, MFing me to his boss in the middle of the night. His boss calls me up. What did you do to our boat? We're going to have all this damage. You're going to have to pay for this. It's going to be tens of thousands of dollars, all this stuff. So I'm like, hey, man, don't worry about it. Your guy got something in the wheel. We'll fix it, right? So he hangs up the phone, and now I can hear him just cursing in general to the whole world about this guy, Dan. I can't believe I got to work with this moron, and on this is going. So did you ever have one of those moments of clarity? Like you're just there, and that last little circuit just goes, burns out, right? So now it's all red lights on Dan's dashboard. And Jerry must have saw like something go tilt in my eyes, like the old pinball machines. And I just stood there and I just said, Jerry, you want to step aside for a second? He's like, you okay? I said, Jerry, I'm great. Just move over. So on the way up the companionway to the wheelhouse, of course, a lot of tugboats, I don't know why, because no one ever uses it, there's a fire axe. And it's hanging on the wall, right? So I had my moment of clarity, like, see you, Jerry. I'm running up the stairs, grab the fire axe. And I got the fire axe in my hand with a clear idea of exactly what I'm going to do with it. I mean, this is going to be a horror movie set on a tugboat, right? While we're still drifting down the river, because Jim just decided we're going to drift a while for some reason, while he got rid of his emotional issues with Dan, the moron. So I make it to the last step. I'm ready to go in the wheelhouse. And all of a sudden, Jerry's on my back. Boom, he tackles me. He's like, Dan, what are you doing? Now, Jim starts yelling at, what are you doing with the fire axe? I just like looking up, I go, it's buried in your head. So we go, Jerry pulls me over somehow, and we go tumbling down the staircase like in a comedy movie. Boom, 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 down the companion, all the way down the bottom. And miraculously, nobody got hurt with the fire axe. But it was down there with us too. So we're at the bottom, and Jerry like kind of pins me down the thing. He's like, what are you doing? This is crazy. And Jim is standing at the top of the thing looking down like, what are you guys doing with the, he kept saying, what are you doing with the fire axe? So finally I realized like you can't hit the guy with a fire axe. Like even with, you can't even hit him with the side of it or with the handle. You can't do that. That was my second moment of clarity. So Jerry says, you all right? This is just as soon as you get off me. So he gets off me, I calm down, I'm sitting there tapping my foot like this, just looking, right? Watching, thinking, what am I gonna do? And there lays the fire axe. Jerry goes over and he's like, hey, I'll be right back. I hear doors slamming. He must have gone like down to the bilge or something. He dropped the fire axe in the bilge, threw it over the side. I don't know. We get back to the dock finally, and Jim is still cursing me over the PA system, everything. I'm glad we're done with you, all this stuff, right? And who do you think is waiting for me at the dock? The Philadelphia Police Department. Jim had called the cops. So luckily, I knew this nice lady cop who used to come and feed the stray cats at our pier. And she says to me, hey, Dan, how you doing? I says, good, got something caught in the wheel and this and that. She's like, yeah, you got to get in the car, go with me. I said, I go with you? I'm going home, we got to fix this problem. She's like, no, you got to go up to the precinct, talk to the lieutenant. I'm like, oh, this is really bad, you know? So got in the car, went uptown. Precinct lieutenant or whichever guy it was yells at me for a good 15, 20 minutes. I did not have a moment of clarity with the cops, I just took it. And went home and got away with the rest of it. So that's my story. Don't let it go too far.